What is your sense, from what you've heard, from what you've seen, as to whether or not this fiscal pact will strike the right balance and what it will do for the Eurozone economy in the years ahead?
Well, it's true that I have some experience of that kind of matter since I've been as well finance minister, but also EU commissioner in charge of managing the pact. I think we are very close to a deal. It was not doable last week in the ECOFIN and Eurogroup meeting, but there have been talks since then between the French and German finance ministries. And I think they are quite close now to a common solution, and we will have a deal by the end of the week, hopefully. I don't know the details, of course, but what I know is that the previous version of the pact needed to be reformed in order to be more transparent, less complex, and also less pro-cyclical than the previous one, which was a kind of a self-inflicted austerity pact. We need to re-establish the rules since we've unplugged them since the COVID crisis and also the health crisis, the energy crisis. We need rules in order to have a roadmap for our public finances, but we need to have also flexible, intelligent, and also nationally owned rules. That's what I hope from the reform. Anyhow, on 1st January 2024, there will be rules. I hope it won't be the ancient rules, but reformed rules.
OK, so we look ahead when we see if we get anything reformed. You have in the past, Monsieur Moscovici, talked about large deficits and debt in France and talked about France as being part of the club of European countries with large deficits and debt. Are you still concerned about the scale of debts in France?
Well, I'm informed about it. When I look at the comparison between the various Eurozone countries, I see that France is now in the top 3 of the more indebted countries. You've got Italy, then Greece, then France. We have a public debt of some 110%, whilst the average in the Eurozone is at 91%. It has been increased during the COVID crisis and the Ukrainian crisis, and it's reducing too slowly. That's my message. But still, one thing I want to insist on is that I'm not concerned about the level of the debt itself. French debt is manageable, it's sustainable. It can be financed since the country is in quite good health, with a large market linked to Germany, and clearly at the heart of the Eurozone. So we don't have financing problems. But the main problem to me is that when you have too much public debt, you cannot reach the level of investment that is necessary in order to finance the fight against climate change, or digital transformation, or innovation. And these are challenges for a country like this one, which needs to be modernized. The more you are indebted, the less you can act efficiently. And I think we need to prevent that, and that's why I insist so much that the government reduces deficit and debt, and for that have a strong action on public expenditure, since our public expenditure level is also the highest in the Eurozone.
OK, let me draw you out a little bit then on that, because you're kind of nodding to a potential policy prescription and drawing on your deep expertise then. How do you strike that balance? What would your policy prescription be that allows the economy of France to modernise whilst getting that overall debt load that, though you say it's sustainable, and on a trajectory lower?
Well, we've got now a mountain of debt. We've got 3,000 billion debt. That's the stock. We reimburse each year some 84 billion in 2027 in order to finance our debt. And this is way too much. On the other side, we have a wall of investment to finance. We need to finance ecological transition. We need to finance digital transition. We need to finance our educational system, our hospitals, innovation and research, which need to be clearly strengthened. And if you want the wall to be built, you need to reduce the level of the mountain. And for doing that, you need to clearly reduce the level of public expenditure. And for that, to reform our public policies, some are inefficient or insufficiently efficient, and we need to make them more efficient and less costful. And that's clearly what is to be done, and that's why I advocate for public for spending reviews in France. So this is not a practice we use to mobilize. We need to do that much more now, and for the next budgets, it needs to be done.
Okay, so the need for public sector, or at least public spending reform in France. As you look to 2024, Monsieur Moscovici, do you think France avoids a recession, and should the ECB be thinking about cuts, and if so, when?
Well, first, I don't see France in recession in 2024. I would certainly agree with the consensus forecast. We'll have a moderate growth of something like, I don't know, 0.7 and hopefully a little bit more. This economy has proven to be resilient in the past. We are certainly in a better shape than other partners. I would quote Germany because, well, we have adapted, because we have modernized, because we've got some big firms. We are in a strong situation. We've got a strong internal market, a high level of consumption. We need to have a better performance on external trade. So I would say I'm optimistic moderately on France, moderately because the overall context is what we all know, a slowdown in growth all over the world. But I think that our performance can be, I would say, in the highest level in the Eurozone, among the countries which resist the better to the recession. We won't have a recession in France, we will have a moderate growth.
Okay, so near the top of the table there. On another subject, Pierre, could I ask you about the presidency of Emmanuel Macron? He's clearly suffered a setback as lawmakers rejected his immigration bill. This is the most recent development, perhaps, in French politics. What do you think on the broader level? What does that tell us about his ability to deliver his political agenda?
Well, that's a specific part of the agenda. And, you know, in France, the government and the president don't have a majority in the assembly. But for the first time since he was re-elected 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, all the oppositions from as well the right, the left and the far right, have, I wouldn't say united, but voted together against a text on migration. And that is a political event. And the president and the government will have to find a way in order to get this text voted, and in order also to get a majority for the rest of the legislature, which lasts until 2027. I wouldn't say that's a crisis, but certainly that's a new situation that needs to be addressed, since for the first time, again, all the oppositions voted together, whilst they are very different from their political origins. They don't create an alternative majority. So there is no alternative majority, but there needs to be some creative thinking in order to find a way.